Have you ever been like going a certain direction and then you realize, okay, this is going the wrong place. This is a wrong direction. And whether I'm not just talking about cars or walking or anything. I'm talking about life. You just realize if I keep going on this path, it's going to end up there. It's going to end up where I don't want. And that's a revelation that doesn't always come. But it's an important revelation that we need to have and we need to understand. But even though we see it, it's not easy to change it. It's not easy to change that direction, to change that outcome. I love the story of Charles Dickens. When he wrote The Christmas Carol, he wrote it based on a biblical story, except he changed the story. He didn't like that ending. He wanted a different ending, which is fine. It makes the same point. The Christmas Carol in the end, Scrooge finds out that he can change. He doesn't have to be on the same course. But he was on that path until all of a sudden he realized that he needed to change. And my question for you this morning is, are you ready to change? Are you going to be honest enough to say, God, what is it you want to do? How can you move in my life? I'm ready to change. And I really believe that on this special Father's Day, that if we're going to change, we're going to have to embrace this simple idea that I am the next man in line. I'm talking to the fathers, but everyone's included. I am the next person in line. I am the next in line. What does that mean? Let me just start, and I'm going to string together a few stories, okay? Everyone with me? So let's start with Ruth and Boaz. And you're thinking, what is that? Old Testament, go read it. It's a great love story. It really is. It's an amazing story. There's some parts in it. Woo, but besides that, it's really good, okay? So stay with me, and if you miss them, come back later, and Pastor Greg will be love to explain them to you. So it's Ruth and Boaz. What happens is Naomi, with her two sons, because of famine and such, left Israel. They were Israelites, and they went to another land, the Midianites land. And then their two daughters, or their two sons married two daughters, and so they had two daughter-in-laws. And as it was, her husband died, and both of her sons died. So there she is left with these two daughter-in-laws, and she's thinking, I'm just going to go home. I got nothing here. I'm going to go home. And she says to the two daughter-in-laws, you stay here, and I'm going to go, because this is your home. And one of them says, okay, love you, out. And then the other one said, no, Ruth. Ruth said, I'm going with you, because where you go, I go. And what you feel, I feel. And what you're dealing with, I'm going to deal with. And your God is my God. So she accepted serving God, and she decided to go back. And so Naomi goes back with Ruth. The only problem is they got no money. I mean, there's poor, and then there's dirt poor, and then there's down there. And this is who they are. They have nothing. She has some property, but she can't work it. She can't do anything with it. And so Ruth is sent out into the fields just gathering up old wheat left over so they won't starve, literally starve to death. Now I'm going to fast forward through this story because I want to get to the point. And the point is that in the process of all this, Ruth meets Boaz. Blonde hair down to here, really, the book's picture. That's what. Just kidding. He probably doesn't look like that at all. But Ruth meets Boaz, and Boaz loves Ruth. And so Boaz wants to marry Ruth, but he realized it's all complicated. How many know life gets complicated? It gets complicated because he is a kinsman redeemer. He is a distant relative to Naomi. Naomi is going to sell her property. And in those days, you wanted to keep the property in the family. And so Boaz thought, what I'll do is I'll buy this property and I'll be able to have and marry Ruth. But there was another problem because life is complicated. And this other complication was that there was someone before him who had the right to buy the property. And so he goes to this person and say, you're the closest, you're the first up. You're the first up in redeemer, kinsman, to redeem this land, to buy the land for Naomi, and then you would have the property. And he says, what a deal. I got this. I'm all for adding more property. Everyone says amen. So adding more property. And he says, oh, by the way, there is this one catch. You have to marry Ruth and raise up family so that she has a family. He goes, whoa, don't want to do that. The wife might feel funny about that. But and then I got my own family. I got my own desires. I got my own lineage I want to take care of. So I'm not willing to do that. And this brings us to an incredible line, incredible moment, that everything I'm sharing this morning is really based on this, to help us understand the concept of what God is trying to do in our life, and to help us understand how he's speaking to us this morning. You see, Boaz wasn't about the property. He was glad to buy it, but he was about the relationship. He wanted to marry Ruth. He loved Ruth. So this is what he said when the first kinsman said, no, I'm not going to do that. He said in Ruth 4:4, here it is, if you redeem it, if you redeem this land, if you buy this land, if you get Ruth, then that's good. You do that. But if you will not, I'm the next in line. I'm ready to step up. I'm ready to do something. I'm ready to make a difference. I'm ready to do this. You have the first right of refusal, so to speak. But if you're not going to do it, I'm here. I'm here now. I'm here right here, and I'm going to make this happen. Don't dismiss this line as just simply the setup for the story. This is everything. The attitude of Boaz, the willingness of Boaz to step up and say, I'm going to be the kinsman redeemer. I'm going to be the one that redeems back the loss and the hurt and the pain and make everything better. You see, I'm the next in line. If you're thinking, well, what does that mean? What does it mean I'm the next in line? It means embracing now. Embracing the moment. This is where God has you. You're here not by accident. You're here not by coincidence. In your life, in your journeys, in your ins, in your outs, and everything that's going good, everything that's going bad. And this is where you're found. This is who you are. What are you going to do now? How are you going to respond now? Embrace this moment you're in right now. Let's bring in the second story. The second story is the story of the rich man and Lazarus, the beggar. This is the story that Charles Dickens based his Christmas Carol on. And they said the rich man had all this wealth, and he was going out every single day, and he would go on his way, and he would pass by Lazarus, who was a beggar. Who, by the way, is interesting. This is the only time that Jesus names someone in one of his stories. And he used his best friend's name, but that's interesting. And he used this name and to help us understand and to relate to Lazarus. But he just ignored him. He just ignored him because he had this view. And this view was, well, right now is about me. Right now is about what I need. Right now is I want to make sure I don't endanger my life. I don't want to destroy my plans. I don't want to change my dreams. That's exactly what the first kinsman redeemer said. And that's exactly why he did not get the property and did not do it. This is exactly the same thing. This is exactly what he says. He says, I don't want to make sure do that. I got plans. I got purposes. I got things I got to do, God. You ever thought that, done that? Mm-hmm. You see, your direction is always set by holding on to now. Your direction, you think it's about tomorrow. You think about, I got to do this, I'm going to do this. I got plans, Pastor Greg. I got futures. Okay, that's good. But you know how you get there? Right now, right here, right now. This is it, right now. This is the very moment. And if we learn to deal with the now, then we're going to find that we're going to get to where we really want to be. Your direction is always set by holding on to this moment, not by ignoring the now. What does it mean for fathers to embrace this moment? What does it mean to be the next man up? I want to take us to one more story. So you got to stay with me. You can do that, right? You can think more. So you got the Ruth and Boaz, right? You got the rich man and Lazarus, and then I'm going to take you to Romans 12. It's 3 simple steps, 3 simple little thoughts that I guarantee you will change your life, will change your fatherhood, will change your family, will change everything about you. Here, they're very, very practical. They're very, very simple. And that's why I'm just going to focus on these 3. And let me just start with this one, Romans 12:12. Be joyful in hope. Fathers, if you're going to have a good family, if you're going to change the world around you, we must live joyful in hope. Now, living joyful is not just thinking of being silly about a better tomorrow. It's about living spiritual now for a better tomorrow. You see, hope and being joyful in hope is to understand that something better is coming. That's how we have to live. If you're living and you're thinking that's going to be bad and that's not going to be bad and all these bad things happen, so that means this bad thing's going to happen, you are not living joyful in hope. You must be joyful in hope by thinking, God, you got something. God, you're going to do something. God, you're going to turn this around. Hope is the ultimate antidote and the true structural opposite of anger. You may not see the opposite. I'm going to talk about a few opposites here this morning. But the opposite, I believe, of hope is anger and strife. Anger is always stuck in the past. It is always, always in the past. Because if you find someone that's angry, they're angry about something. God, you did this. She did this. He did this. They did this. My kids didn't even say, good, happy Father's Day, blah, 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 whatever. We're stuck in the past. And we're angry. So anger is always stuck in the past. But hope is always, always, always looks forward. That's what hope is. You cannot have hope unless you're looking forward, thinking, okay, somehow, God, you're going to do this. Somehow, God, you're going to turn this around. When a father's angry, it transformed the family life, the family space, from a sanctuary to an erratic hole of distrust and fear. This is not just one study. This was several studies because they've studied this a lot. But I love this study that measured the angry outburst in homes, the angry shouting in homes. And what they found, true story, what they found in this study is that in youth and young children and such, their physical brain actually shrinks in size because of anger, because of shouts. Maybe because they don't understand why. They're trying to figure out and say, oh, well, maybe it's a part of the fight and flight response. Maybe it's you're getting ready to do something. I don't know. But it physically shrinks because of anger. What they found as they went on is that on the opposite end, joyful dads have this amazing way to teaching their sons how to live and be masculine and what masculinity is really all about. Not from being tough, not from being strong, but from being joyful. There's something about that teaches the sons, hey, I can try this. It's going to be okay. I can risk this. I can believe in this. I can step out and maybe it works, maybe it doesn't, but it's okay. That comes from a joyful father. Now, for the daughters, they found an amazing thing. That daughters that are around a joyful father learn how to live and expect better things in their life. That they know how to be treated. There's something about a joyful father that teaches them this is how to be treated. And so when they get into situations or relationships or whatever like that, no, this is not masculinity. This is not the way I'm to be treated. I know how to be treated because my dad showed me how to be treated. I love that study. It confirms everything we know about the biblical foundation and rejects everything that the world teaches. Anger always consumes like fire, it burns. It'll burn up emotional energy. It'll burn up everything. You cannot live angry. Don't let the sun go down on your anger. It doesn't mean that we don't have the emotion of anger, but as fathers, we have to learn how to control that, and we control it by joyful hope. And I'm convinced if there's someone, a father especially, that is angry, it's because he has no joyful hope. He's not thinking about, hey, this is going to work out. God's going to do this. I can trust God for this. There's something better out there. It always destroys. Hope grows like a good soil. It grows security. It grows trust. A joyful father creates a soil where the family can be okay, even when they fail, even when they stumble, even when it's not so good. And you say, well, Greg, I want that. How do I live that? How do I do that? 1 Peter 1:3. I love this. This should change everything you understand about hope. It says, in his great mercy, God has given us a new birth into a living hope. The reason you don't have hope, it's not joyful hope, is because it's a dead hope. It's you. Because if all your hope is in your efforts and your little movements and your plans and your purposes, that's a dead hope. It has to be a living hope through the resurrection of Jesus Christ. Only Jesus Christ gives a living hope. A hope that's alive. A hope that says, boy, this stinks. This is hard. This is difficult. This is not right. I don't have any money here. I don't like this. This is really hard. They hate me here, whatever like that. But you know what? I got a living hope. That only comes from God. That only comes from God. You see, I'm convinced that the world's view, which is totally wrong, but the world's view views all masculinity as toxic. It's just the world, and because they go to the extreme, because it's political and it's all these type of things. They see all masculinity as toxic. But it's not maybe without a cause. They took it too far and everything like that, and they distort it, and it's not right. But if we were joyful as fathers, if we lived joyful, then there wouldn't be this strong reaction, I think, even in the world around us. We need to understand, what does it mean to be joyful? You see, the father doesn't just have an anger problem. He has a dead problem. He needs to have a living birth, a living hope. Joyful in living is hope that is unspeakable and full of glory. You can't even explain it. You can't even do it. It is unstoppable. It doesn't matter what happens. It doesn't matter how it goes. It doesn't matter. And then our families need to see us like everything falls apart. We're still good. God is still good. Well, that's unstoppable. And it's unshakable. It cannot be shaken. It cannot be. It doesn't matter what it is. I'm going to love my wife. It doesn't matter what it is. I'm going to keep going. It doesn't matter what's going on. I'm going to keep trusting. That only comes from a living hope. You see, I'm next in line means, secondly, not settling for acceptable standards, the world standards, the way the world looks at it. You see, the reason Dickens changed the story is he wanted to have the lesson that you could change, and that's fine. And that's the same lesson that Jesus tells in the story of Lazarus, is that don't be like this. Don't do that. That was the lesson. That was sort of Hebrew thinking. And so he tells the story, he says, don't live like this because you'll end up like that. Don't settle for that. And that's what Jesus is trying to convey. Look at Jesus telling this story just a little bit in Luke 16, 22 and 23. It says, the beggar, that's Lazarus, died, and angels came and carried him into Abraham's side. And the rich man also died and went to hell. He didn't cut any punches there. We don't preach that way anymore. But that's what happened. And that's what Jesus is saying. There's consequences. He died, and he went to hell. In torment, he looked up, he saw Abraham, and he saw Lazarus, but it was too late. That was the point. It's too late. Do something now. Believe now. Jesus taught the consequences. What was the rich man's sin? What was his failure? He was an Israelite. He probably followed all the religious rules. He did everything. But he followed also an acceptable standard that he would go out there and say, it's acceptable to just ignore this person in need. It's acceptable not to have any mercy. He could have done all kinds of things, didn't even involve him. He was wealthy. He could have sent his servants out once a week and feed the man or to care for him. There's all kinds of things. But he followed the standards. And I'm sure all of his other friends around him were just saying, that's okay. That's the way it is. It doesn't matter. That's life. Yeah, they're out there. You know, probably someone will say the poor will be with us forever. Whatever. I don't know. Just the standards, the excuse. You see, in Dickens' story, he actually stopped time so that Scrooge can figure out, this is not the way I should live. That standard isn't good enough. And if you study the story of A Christmas Carol, Scrooge was constantly making excuses. Well, that's the way it is. Well, that's what they deserve. Well, that constantly, all through it, just making excuses, just saying, this is what should be acceptable. This is what should be normal. So what do we do, Greg? How do we How do we understand not to accept that standard but to live a different standard? Let's go to the second step in Romans 12:12. The second thought, here it is. Be patient, be patient, be patient in afflictions, in trials, in troubles. And do we not, especially as fathers, live impatient when we're struggling, when we're hurting, when it's difficult? We want to take care of it. We want to fix it. Patient in affliction is teaching momentary troubles are actually achieving greater glory. Teaching us. We can be patient in afflictions because we know God's got a bigger plan. God's got a purpose. God hasn't left me. He hasn't abandoned me. But you got to hang on to that. You got to know that. You cannot be patient in affliction if you think the affliction is going to end in total disaster. Somehow, some way, even in pain, even in hurt, even in loss, God is there. He's able to be there in the most incredible way. You know, Ecclesiastes was written by Solomon, and he's supposed to be a really smart guy. He says this, and I never put these two together. But it's just an amazing thought. It says that patience is better than pride. Literally, it's putting these two as opposites. The opposite of pride is patience. The opposite of pride. How do I take care of my pride? Be patient. Because what does pride do? I can fix it. I can do it. I can take care of it. I can work this out. I can turn this around. I can do all this. That's what pride does. Patience says, God, I'm going to trust you. God, I'm gonna believe that somehow you're going to move in this difficult situation, even though it hurts so much. Prideful fathers live worldly standards that always leads in brokenness. My father, remember this one story. He was a postman, did that for 30 years before his stroke. And he cleaned banks. He had 2 jobs. He had 6 kids. And we loved to eat. 4 boys and 2 girls. So it was and then my mom worked full-time as well as a bookkeeper at a country club. But my father was just the most amazing man. He was kind. He was gentle. I heard him raise his voice every now and then. I'm going to tell you, he was still a dad, especially when he came home and we have done nothing. So he'd come home, get home about 3 o'clock, and from the post office, something like that. And then after getting up at like 4:30, and after doing that, he would clean the whole house, making us sort of do it too. We weren't really good at that, but there we were. He'd clean the whole house, and then Mom would come home after working all day and cook dinner, and then as she was cleaning up, he would leave, and when we got older, he would take us with us and go clean the bank every day. That was, and I'm just telling you that because that was his heart. He was just such a humble man. But he'd been in the church all his life and raised us in the church. We were there Sunday morning, Sunday night, Wednesday night, and anything special. And when they had revival, every single night. We were always there. My father made sure, and my mother, that we were there. I remember one time that they were going to consider in that church, they voted for deacons and elders, board members. And so his name was put up. I was so proud of him. He's an amazing man. He's just all of his family there, everything, all in church, doing it, just loving God, just doing like that. And then, of course, he didn't get it because he's just a postman. He didn't have any finances, and maybe it was more political than I know. But from a young boy, I just thought, and yet I just watched him. He was so amazing. It's like, it's all good. I love being here. I love having it. And that taught me so much about how do we live and how do we behave. How can we practice patience even when it's really hard? Because that is the opposite of pride. Here's the last thought. Next in line means bringing all the loves in your life, every love in your life, into greater fulfillment. Understanding being the next up in line means you're bringing everything in line. You see, Boaz married Ruth because he loved her. But it wasn't just about property. It was about relationship and brought healing to the whole family. I love this verse. Ruth 4:13 says, so Boaz took Ruth. She became his wife. And the Lord enabled her to conceive. And she gave birth to a son. Oh, you think, isn't that nice? Isn't that special? But it wasn't just a son. It was the great-grandfather of King David himself, in the very line of Jesus Christ through Mary. Did you catch that? Here's this poor foreigner, not even Israelite, and she is in the line of Jesus Christ through Mary. Isn't that the most amazing thing you've ever heard? How can that be? How is that possible that she would do that? You see, through his actions, he not only brought love to Ruth and to certainly Naomi for the land and that whole community, but for generations and generations and generations. And our love has to be the same way. Our love has to be the same way. Now, in Greek, it's very expressive language. I'm convinced that's why God had the New Testament written in Greek. There are 7 different Greek words for the one word we say love. You know, because we say, I love you. I love you. I love you. Whatever. And by emotion and by inflection, we change it. They had different words. 4 of these Greek words are actually in the New Testament. One word is the most important. It is the agape, radiant love. Now I'm going to draw a picture. Everyone stay with me. Ready? Here's a big picture. Here's a big picture. I want you to see agape love, selfless love, Christ's love in the center. And around it are the other 6 loves, sort of circling around it. All important, all essential, all theirs. But the one love in the middle is agape. These other loves are things like romantic love. How many give thanks for romantic love? God's good. Come on. Yeah, I'm not raising my hand. No, that's right. That's a trick. Pastor's going to do something. When I first saw Lisa, I was in love. You know what I'm saying? So I didn't even know what love was, but that's okay. But romantic love, then there's friendship love. Like, man, I love my friend. And then there's family love. You love your family. There's family love. It's a different word. There's enduring love. I love this one. It's a mature love. It's like it's going to last. It's not about emotion. It's not about circumstances. It's a mature. There's a word just for that, for mature love. And then there's self-love. You got to love it. You got to love yourself. If you hate yourself, you're going to hate everyone around you. And everyone around you is going to hate you too. There's a love for self, right? So these 6 loves go around and around, and then there's agape, which is selfless love. Here's the problem. Sometimes we think, it's all about this romantic love. And we put it in the middle. God's still there. You love God. You know, God's good. He's down there. But it's all about, and then that's how we end up with just pornography and crazy relationships and everything just going nuts and all this type of thing because it's in the center and it was never meant to be in the center. Only God's love is. And if you do that with any of them, I'll step on a few toes. Put family. Family, it's the most important thing. You put that in the middle, you'll destroy your family. You'll destroy your family because it can't be in the middle. Or what we normally do is we put the self-love in the middle. Don't we love us? Aren't we good? I love me. I just love me. I got these other loves. I love my family. I love this. But it's about me. That's what most of the world does. But when you put and you keep agape love, the selfless, sacrificial love in the middle, the God love, every love gets better. You will love better. You will love your spouse better. You'll love your family better. You'll love yourself better. Isn't that crazy? You'll do all these other loves. It'll just get better and better if Christ is the center. This brings us to the last point in Romans 12:12. It says, being faithful in prayer. You see, Jesus didn't teach us to inform us on understanding the loves. He taught us so that we can change our love, so we could put Him first, to love Him more than anything else. I love the picture. Boaz was the second in line, but he was willing to step up. And I want you to think about this. Adam was the first in line. He was the first Adam. And he failed. He put sinner In the center, he put self. And everything fell. And before we blame Adam, we do the same thing. But then, I'm telling you, here's the point. There was a second Adam that stood up. There was a second Adam that came, and he says, I'm the next in line. I will come from heaven to earth, and I will live and I will die so that you can be purchased back. He, Jesus Christ, became our kinsman, redeemer, and bought us back to heal the land. But to do that, he heals us through a relationship with Jesus Christ. Isn't that an incredible picture? You know, God's teaching us to be the next in line. So God, I'll step up. I'll put you in the center so that I can love and change the world, change my family, change my community, change everything around me. Let me pray. Father, your children call to you. God, I know that some are hurting and some are difficult in situations. But Father, I pray that you would be that Father that wraps your arm around them. And God, I pray that you would help us understand that Jesus Christ has come to redeem us. But we must believe, we must accept, we must allow him into our hearts and allow him to be center. And if you're here this morning, if you're watching online, and all of a sudden, maybe for the first time you realize, I've always loved God, but he's not in the center. I am, or other things are, other loves are. I want to put him in the center. The Bible shows us and tells us it's as simple as saying, God, come into my life, be the center of my life. Change me so I can be a good father. Change me so I can be a good wife, a mother, a spouse, a daughter, a son. So, Father, I pray right now with everyone in this room, if there's one person that says, God, that's me, I want to put you in the center. I pray they would pray this prayer with me and say, Dear Jesus, forgive me. Please move into my center so that I, a sinner, can be forgiven and learn to love a world around me. So, Lord Jesus, in the name of Jesus, I pray that you would touch every single heart, every single person watching online, that they would make that prayer and make that commitment to live that life, and they would do it now, because now is the moment for their future. Lord, I'm believing for all of that. I'm believing that, God, in the midst of everything, you're going to make this the best Father's Day ever. And so in the name of Jesus, I pray. Amen.